Hi, this is Lives Touched by Pets, a podcast for those who love and are loved by pets. I'm your host, Lisa DeSatnik. I'm a certified trainer with so much potential in Cincinnati, Ohio. It is my goal that you will find personal, relatable discussions and stories aimed to inspire and educate. I'm really glad that you're here. Welcome. If you have a dog, you more than likely are wanting to walk your dog. Walking your dog may even be a reason you got your pet. At the same time, you probably know if your pet has high prey drive, that activity can be a real challenge. This episode is for you. I'm talking with an international expert on dog predation and predation substitute training about this very subject. I have a feeling you're going to find it very helpful. Simone Mueller is a certified dog trainer and dog behavior consultant in Germany. I am so excited to have her with us today. I've taken her webinars. I've taken a course from her. She is just wonderful, and I'm really happy that I can talk to her virtually in person today. She specializes in force-free anti-predation training and is the author of 2 books of predation substitute training. What is that? Her books are called Hunting Together and Rocket Recall. Simone is proud to be an associate trainer at the Scotland-based Lothlorien Dog Training Club and a member of both the Pet Professional Guild and the Pet Trainers of Europe. So let's get this started. Simone, this is so exciting. I've seen you online. I've taken your class. I've seen you in webinars to be talking to you. That's personally so exciting for me. And I'm going to learn, I think, probably as much as the listeners are. So this is really going to be a great topic, I think, for a lot of people. Thank you so much for joining me from Germany.
Yeah, thank you very much, Lisa, for the invitation. I'm so glad to be here and talk about my favorite topic, I have to say.
You know what? Why don't we start with you talking about, first of all, so many people talk about their dogs being reactive and impulsive, and, oh, my dog doesn't listen to me when we're out and about. I can't get him to focus or do anything that I want. And he's pulling on the leash and going in all these different directions. And I think what you're going to talk about today is going to be really helpful information for all these people. Why don't you talk about so first of all, predation substitute training, what is it?
That's a good question. So, predation substitute training is, I thought it's quite an artificial term, but it describes best what I do with when I teach dogs not to chase and not to hunt. We basically have to come up with something instead that they can do, because you cannot teach a dog not to do something. So it's very hard to teach a dog to stop and do nothing. So it's always a better option, more easy option, to give them something to do instead. And the thing with predatory behavior, I think we'll come to this later in our conversation, is that our dogs crave to do it. It's so exciting for them, so highly rewarding for them. And just asking them not to do it, this is it's hard, and it's a little bit unfair and frustrating for them, and also for the owner frustrating, because the dog will do it, but then the other day not. So I thought about giving them something else to do, something safe, something better, something that they can do together with their owner.
And I love your approach. So positive, so force-free. It's just wonderful. What got you into this? Let's hear your story, because there's always a story behind this, right?
Yeah,
What
yeah.
inspired you?
Exactly. And I think it's so common among us trainers or dog professionals that we all started with this one particular special dog that had such a big impact on you that you chose a career in this field. And it was the same for me. My very first dog that I mean, we always had a family dog when I was a kid, but then I had this first dog who I was responsible for. And I was still at uni, and everything was, yeah, new to me. So I had, for the first time, I had to care about a dog by myself, and I had to do all the training and stuff like that. And I wanted to do everything right from the beginning. So clicker training was just the new big thing in dog training during that time here in Germany. And I wanted to learn everything about it. But then my dog, at the age of 2, she developed such a big prey drive that it almost, yeah, I was almost, yeah, close to desperation, basically, because I was able to walk her in the forest because we live near a forest. Everything here is forest or field. And I was able to work her when she was a puppy. And it was also okay during adolescence. But then when she hit almost maturity, this prey drive came up, and I didn't know how to deal with that. And during that time, we didn't have a lot of trainers here in my area, at least not. So we had some dog training clubs where you could do agility and obedience and stuff like that. But this didn't really help. And everybody had a different tip for me. So I went on the internet on some forums, and everybody was giving some advice, but it was so random and so not connected to each other, that it really didn't work out for me and my dog during that time. And this was the first time when I thought, oh my God, we need a structured approach, something that really, like a plan, like a structured plan to get from A to B. And this is where it all started. I started to to investigate predatory behavior in dogs. I read a lot of books. I went to a lot of seminars. We didn't have webinars at that time, but we had seminars, and it was all so interesting. And eventually I even decided, why not become a dog trainer myself? And she, or this particular dog, Malinka was her name, she got me into dog training in the end.
She's responsible for this
She's
whole
responsible,
worldwide.
yeah. Yeah.
Oh, that's so neat. Um, yes, because so many people can relate to that story. And
Mm.
I love hearing that and how you got into it. So when we talk about predation and what it means to have a high drive dog, what exactly are you talking about with that?
Oh, yeah, that's actually a very good question. When you think about it on a superficial level, it's like, oh my God, my dog is chasing wildlife, chasing livestock. Some people, when they refer to predatory behavior, they also mean that the dog is killing, for example, sheep or squirrels or mice or something like this. But this is just the tip of the iceberg, the thing that is really visible and scary. So we always refer to that when we talk about prey drive. But prey drive is so much more than just chasing or killing. And the everyday problems, the struggles that you have in everyday life with your dog, they are beneath the surface. And these are the behaviors that come before the chase and before the grab and kill bite. It comes, for example, when dogs put their nose down on the ground and follow a track, and nothing can get them their attention back. Or when you have a dog that is completely disconnected from you when you walk out of the door. So the moment they are in their environment where they were bred for example, a spaniel, when you walk them through bushes and undergrowth, they are completely lost in their dog world. This automatically triggers their innate hunting drive and prey drive. Or when you have, for example, a hound, a scent hound, who is nose down, and then nothing else can get you back. So pulling the lead, we have this pulling. We have the that the dog is completely unapproachable for you. That you just feel like the other end of the leash, who is just flying somewhere behind your dog, stumbling behind your dog. These are the struggles that people have in everyday life, but it's often the case that they don't really realize that we're talking about prey drive here. They report leash pulling, not coming back, not listening. These are the things that they Google when they go on Google. But actually the underlying problem here is the prey drive. So we need to address not the leash pulling. Of course, we can address that too. But first we need to address the predatory behavior.
And when you talk about that, there's actually a sequence to this predatory behavior too. Do you want to talk a little bit about that? And you touched on how hounds and spaniels, what they're doing, with their noses and things, but some breed specific identifiers too of this is a predatory kind of behavior.
Yeah, sure. So the predatory sequence or the predatory motor pattern that you're referring to is a term that was developed by Professor Coppinger, Raymond Coppinger, and his wife, Lorna. They have written a wonderful book that never gets old. It's called Dogs, very simple. And I would recommend this to every dog lover, dog owner, dog professional to read this at least once in your life. And he was the first to try to put this very complex behavior that consists of so many single individual behaviors. He tried to put this into one structure. And in order to explain what is happening here. And this is what we now call the predatory motor pattern or the predatory sequence. And he described that wild canines go through a certain protocol when they hunt. So it all starts with orientation behavior. Orientation means the dog goes out, feels hungry, and looks out for something to hunt. And there might be something or might not be something. This is the very first stage, so that the wolf, the dog, is looking around. Is there something worth hunting? And this orientation behavior was what I was referring to when I said when you have a dog that is, for example, completely switched off when you walk out of the door. So it already starts here. And the next step on this chain, on this ladder, is that when let's talk about wolves here, he is he can make out something to hunt, and then he gets into a stalk, what we call a stalk, which means that he get really fixated on this prey animal. We have these, maybe you know this from documentaries where a predator sees prey, where they get really tense and arrow shaped, and the eyes are glued on this prey animal, and then they try to get closer and sneak up and close the distance between themselves and the prey animal. Because when you are a wild predator and you don't have a human to feed you, you have to calculate your energy, the calories that you have available. And what comes next is the chase. And the chase is really energy consuming. This is why wild predators try to get as close to their prey before they go into the chase, to get a good head start. And then when the wolf is lucky and able to make prey, then what happens is that they grab this other animal and they hold on to this other animal to make sure the prey is really dead before they start to dissect and eat. And then the wolf or the lion or whatever wild predators we have is not hungry anymore, so the predatory sequence has come to an end. And this is what Coppinger described in his book as well for pet dogs or for domesticated dogs. But he also observed that our domesticated dogs, our breeds, they do not show the whole sequence anymore. Every wild wolf will go through this sequence, but for our pet dogs, this is not true. So some of them were bred to sniff, for example, the spaniels. And this is because we humans wanted them to do this job. So we extremely highlighted this part of the predatory sequence through artificial breeding. So we basically took the individuals who were very good at tracking or sniffing or whatever, and mated them so that we got in the end dogs that are very good at one task, because we need it for our jobs that we do with our dogs. So, for example, a retriever is super at memorizing where the hunter shot birds from the sky and where the birds hit the ground. And then eventually, when the hunter is done shooting, they run out, they pick up the birds, and then they bring the bird back in their mouth and they hold on to it for dear life. They do not let it go and bring it back through water and bushes and everything. So we have highlighted for them memorizing where something fell off the sky and holding on to prey. So this part of the predatory motor pattern was highlighted in retrievers, for example. In bloodhounds, for example, or any hounds that work with the nose, we have highlighted a lot of tracking. So they are specialists in tracking, because we wanted a dog for when the hunter has made a shot, but the animal is not dead, is badly wounded, but still runs off. So then we bring in the hound and we get him on the trail of blood, and then he will follow this trail through the woods, through the forest, and while he is following the prey animal, he's supposed to bark, because the hunter wants to hear where the dog is, because we didn't have GPS on our dogs 100 years ago. So nowadays, our hounds are still the same. When they find an interesting trail, nose glued to the ground, and off they go, and they bark, 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 bark. So this is what owners report. Oh my God, he's trading all the time. He's dragging me around, and he's barking a lot. And I say, yeah, that's his job. That's exactly what we wanted this dog to do. Yeah. So every dog now has specific tasks that they engage in, and they do not show the full sequence anymore. So we have a lot of dogs that do not stand and stalk and creep, but they see something and they go into the chase immediately. They don't care about the rest. And they also do not stop, because when you think about calorie intake from a rabbit, for example, a wolf at some point would abort the chase and say, okay, this has no sense anymore. The calories that are lost here are much bigger than the amount of calories that I will get from a rabbit. So he will at some point be reasonable, as every wild animal has to do, and stop the chase. But our dogs, no, they just do it for fun. So they go into the chase again and again and again. I have met a dash hound in the forest that belongs to our local hunter, and I was out with my dogs, and this little dash hound came across the trail that I was walking with my dog, and a deer was running in front of it. I could just hold on to my dogs and see them both run by. And then I knew this dog, so I phoned the hunter and I said, I just saw your dog. Here we are at the moment. And he said, oh, that's good to know, because I've been looking for him for 2 days. So no wild predator would hunt a deer for 2 days. It doesn't make sense. But because we have bred dash hounds to chase and to run and to follow and to be persistent, because we want them to do that. And this is the reason why they can do that for 2 days.
Yeah, and it's so important too for people to understand that so that when they're looking at enrichment, they can help their dog to get these biological needs met. I always look at that when we're
Absolutely.
working with different types of dogs. And a lot of times those needs aren't being fully met in the
Yeah.
home, which can lead to a lot of stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
But even and so we could go down lots of rabbit holes and go in different directions, even when we play with our dog, um, the way that, that they would go through that motor sequence and things, can impact that. Um, but so let's talk about too, because something that I thought was really interesting, not, you know what, more than interesting, I thought it was really valuable because I've experienced it too. And so I'm looking forward to learning from this too, is the what you call predation over arousal. And talk
Hmm.
about what that is, when that can occur, or what can people do about that?
Yeah. Yeah, that's a hard topic. Um, yeah, predatory or predation over arousal, predatory over arousal is something which is quite common in these working breeds because we have bred dogs that are basically alert and ready to go hunting all the time. So when you think about 200 years ago, or 100 years ago, even a hunter or a shepherd or anybody who was working with dogs on a professional level, they they didn't want to ask the dog, "Are you ready?" So they felt like, okay, today I need to go hunting, or I want to go hunting, or today I need to move my sheep from A to B. So I need my dog to be ready. And this led to breeding dogs who are ready all the time so that they are available for us when we need them. And 100 years ago, our dogs were in cages. So they lived in kennels, basically. The dogs didn't live at home with the family. So they were quite separate from everything that was going on in the home. And of course, I'm not promoting keeping dogs in cages and kennels, but I have to say these dogs did not have a lot of stimuli. So they were in a rather secluded area. And when they came out, they were ready. And today we have dogs that are still ready all the time, but we don't have them in a separate area anymore. We have them in the families. And they have this feeling of needing to be ready all the time. So we see a lot of dogs that do not rest enough because they always think they need to hurt the children or the guinea pigs, or we have dogs that are triggered by movements, like the hunting dogs, by sounds, by scents, of course. And now what happens is when we take them out into the environment, a lot of these dogs are already, yeah, stressed and overstimulated. So what do those dogs do? They engage into something that feels pleasurable for them and that feels like an outlet for all this stress. And this is hunting behavior. So we see dogs that get out and immediately start to sniff frantically or follow a track frantically or chase everything that moves. And when I have dogs in my training where I feel, okay, this is not the normal range of prey drive for this dog. So of course you are a working dog or you have a working dog. You have to have some amount of prey drive, but this is a little bit weird, a little bit too much. I always start with a background check. So I ask, how many hours does your dog sleep? Did you change something? Do you have a new puppy, a baby? What about kids in the home? How often or how long is your dog left alone? Is your dog good with being left alone, or is he anxious the whole day, walking around, waiting for you to come back. This all contributes to the behavior outside. And when we do not address the root causes, then we can train and train and train on the outside as much as we want, and nothing will really change.
I love that perspective. I really do. So many people think, well, he just needs to get out, and get this energy out. It always brings me back to this story. I work on settle now a lot with dogs that I work with, but um, a couple of years ago, the German short hair pointer, he was about a year old, and the more tired, and they exercised him a lot, and the more tired he got, the
Mhm.
more amped up he got. And I
Yeah.
got called because of a behavior case because they were all up and down their arms, just bleeding. You
Oh
know,
God.
they couldn't get him to settle. And um, so that's one thing. We spent a whole hour, and I actually have a video of the last 5 minutes of me just working on teaching him to be able to turn off. And he was sleeping by the end of the hour. And from that moment on, when he got really tired, he could go to the bed and sleep. And he couldn't do that before. And it made a huge difference. So, yeah. I love that you pointed that out. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Mhm.
Thank you. So the reality for people that have a high prey drive dog, a dog that has these really high tendency needs, talk about walking their dog.
Mhm.
Everybody wants to walk their dog and take their dog to cafes and bring them to parks and busy environments and things. Talk about the reality of that and walking a dog that has these tendencies.
Yeah. Here you have to, there is no blanket advice, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But we have a lot of time here on the conversation, so I think it makes sense to go a little bit more into detail so that everybody can take out what they need for their dog. So first of all, we have to distinguish between reactivity and prey drive. For reactivity, when I say okay, reactivity, I normally mean that the dog is anxious, or let's call it aggressive, but there is more behind that. Let's call it aggressive towards people, children, other dogs, bikes, stuff like that. Okay. So when you have a reactive dog, of course, you do not do them a big favor when you take them to a cafe. So, however, dogs with high prey drive tend to be a bit special. So, of course, we have dogs who are both reactive and high prey drive. So, this is a special and very complicated case then. But when we only have high prey drive in a dog, if, let's say, for example, in a pointer, in a setter, in a typical hunting dog, they are often pretty good with people. Um, the hunting breeds are often quite friendly. Think about Labradors, Goldies, they are the extreme of friendly. They don't have much problem when they meet children or people or something like that. And for them, it can be quite good to take them to places where there are people because they don't have a problem with people. But however, in these locations, we hardly ever have wildlife. So, yeah, a lot of my clients, they can take their hunting dogs to cafes, to parks, and they are pretty good there because they do not have those constant wildlife triggers like scents or tracks or remains of or residues of animals and stuff like that, like poo or something or feathers, and they are better in these areas. Um, yeah, so you always have to make this calculation. Uh, what does my dog, what bothers my dog, or what is my dog good with? Um, yeah, but still, of course, when you, for example, think of a park where there are a lot of squirrels, so this can be the opposite effect, to be honest, because squirrels and critters in general that turn up swiftly and out of the blue and closely to normally a squirrel is much closer than a deer. All these are massive triggers for dogs. And when you have this day after day after day after day, your dog is on a level of arousal that is skyrocketing. So there is not much time in between the next visit to fully calm down again. And then we have a dog that is always on hyper and high alert. So here I would not recommend to take the dog to a park when there are squirrels everywhere, for example.
Okay. All right. And hounds, um, if somebody wants to walk their dog on a loose leash and not have their dog sniff at everything.
Oh yeah. Congratulations.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, the decompression element too for a walk, and I want to address that too because I think that's so important, and we talk about that always, and with when we finish working or doing anything. And you talked about passive versus active decompression. Um, Talk about that, and with these, dogs that tend to be more in the high drive mode.
Yeah. Yeah. So for them, it is important that they have the opportunity to run it out of their system. This does not mean that they don't have to sleep. So we basically need both. But I always compare this to us humans. We are either active or passive stress types. So I am a passive stress type. When I'm done here, we finish the conversation. It's already evening, so I will go to sleep definitely because this has been I have been up all day and I have this appointment here with you, and I maybe was a little bit nervous in the beginning. It was a little bit stressful in a positive way, but still stressful. So I need to sleep afterwards. Maybe somebody else who is an active stress type thinks, oh my God, I've been sitting all day. I need to go for a run. Yeah. I have never felt that urge in my whole life to go for a run. So I'm not an active stress type. But our dogs with high prey drive, they are made for physical movement and for, yeah, movement in general. So most of them tend to be active stress types. So when they experience something where they had to use a lot of impulse control, had to hold themselves back, or something was stressful for them, they need to run it out of their system. And here it's really important to realize that taking the dogs for a walk on a 2 meter leash is not running it out for the dogs. So it doesn't match their movement type, their movement pattern, their natural gait, their natural, the natural, yeah, how do you say it in English? Oh gosh, I'm lost for one word. Um, can you say tempo in English? The
That's a
speed, sorry, the
oh,
natural
speed.
speed. Yes, of course. Yeah. I was thinking of the word in German. So it doesn't match their natural speed. And it is very important for getting your head cleared that you can, yeah, that you can move in your own speed and gait and movement patterns. And this is why I always recommend to dogs that pull on leashes and are really stressed and hyper that they need to have the possibility at least 2 times a week, better 3 times a week, to be in an area where they can, yeah, walk in their own pace. And there, sometimes you really need to become creative and go out and find these places for your dog because you're doing them and yourself a huge favor if you find such a place for your dog. It can be a dog park, but I would only visit the dog park when there are no other people or not a lot of other people. But this could also be, for example, I have one client with a setter and he is allowed to use the area of a company, of a big factory after the production is finished. So he has the key. They have a nice fence around the area. It's fenced, and he can enter at 6 o'clock, and he can have his dog off leash in this area. So he asked the manager, and the manager said, "Oh yeah, this is a win-win situation because I often work overtime, and then when I sit in my office and nobody's here anymore, and I look out of the window, I see this beautiful dog. I feel really happy." So yeah, basically, people are often open when you ask them for a favor for your own dog, and yeah, you just need to become creative and find a spot where your dog can just be a dog. This is so important.
I love that. I do a lot of work with dogs with behavior issues, and my dog also can be, react pretty big when he sees a big dog. So we look for places. And I always tell people, if you look around, you can, oh, there's a big open grassy area on the other side of that parking lot, or,
Yeah.
just be very, very creative. There are streets and my neighborhood, we're not going to see a whole lot of dogs. We see a lot of geese. And I actually do the search game that has gotten us past the geese now. That's really fun for Dawson. But yeah, be creative and look around. So what do you think? What would you say, like some very first or general first steps for somebody that has a dog in this category?
Yeah. So the first thing really is go and find an opportunity for your dog where your dog can just be a dog, and take your dog there 2 times a week, better 3 times a week. And then the next big thing that you need to work on, and is really crucial, is teach your dog that they can have a break when they are outside, because this is a totally new concept for so many dogs, that actually we can stay in this place, we can sit down here on a bench, we can eat some treats, we can maybe even lay down. And for a lot of dogs, this is something mind blowing. They are like, no, we don't have time for that. I cannot eat. I cannot take a treat. I have to go forward, 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 always at the end of the leash. Um, and this is something that I teach my dogs this from puppyhood. So when I take my puppies outside, um, we take breaks. We take breaks every 10 minutes. Every log that I see, I sit down on the log. I scatter some treats, or sometimes even just sit there until my dogs lay down. And yeah, so this is something that I really teach my dogs from the beginning. But even when you have a grown dog, you can still teach this to them. And it's so important, because no dog in the world will be, yeah, will be ready and able to come back to you when you call them, when they cannot even take the time to pause. So when they always have this perception in their mind, it has to go forward, forward. We have to move on, move on, move on. Why should they take the time to turn around and come back to you? So it's something that we have to teach them, and this is the very first step. And using food here is crucial, not to bribe them or something, not even to reward them at that stage. It's because the act of chewing and licking and swallowing and taking the time to eat a treat um, is intrinsically calming. So this comes from the time when we were fed by the mom. What's it called in English? So when we are all mammals, and every mammal has intrinsic pressure to chew and to lick and stuff, because this is connected from the very beginning with calmness and yeah, and being safe. And this is a feeling of calmness that is created in the dog when they finally are able to chew something outside. And even when chewing is not possible, I give them a tube with something liquid that they can lick. And then eventually, when they have licked a couple of times, they are able to take a solid treat. So eating is something that we always start with. This is the first question I ask any client: is your dog able to take treats outside? And I so often hear, no, no, doesn't need. Yeah.
Oh, I love that too. Settling and turning off is something I work on with all,
Yeah.
dogs and puppies too. I think that's just so important. People just take for granted, oh, my dog, when he's tired, he can go over there and lay down, but we're
Oh
talking about
no.
something different, about being able to actually turn off.
Yeah.
So,
Exactly.
yeah. My gosh, we covered so much ground and there's so much valuable information. Thank you so much for being here with me today. This is really great. I really appreciate it. And I have a feeling that a lot of people are going to take a lot of this information and benefit from it. So thank you.
Yeah, I really hope that there are some new ideas or that what you could do with your dog to help them a little bit. So thank you for the invitation and for this opportunity, Lisa.
Sure. And I want to mention that you do courses and webinars. So for people to learn more about this, and you're also on social media because you do fantastic work with
Mm.
dogs with predatory
Thank you.
predatory
Yeah.
substitution training. So yeah. Well, thank you. And yeah, maybe
Yeah.
we'll have you on again in the future.
Oh yeah,
Talk about
that
another
would be really
area.
lovely. Yeah. So if somebody wants to learn more, you're always welcome to have a look at social media. As you said, I'm yeah, my most favorite platform these days is Instagram, but I'm also on Facebook. And of course, on my website, there are all the courses, and there is also, we talked a lot about loose leash walking or dogs that pull on leash. I have a webinar about that. It's called Walking Together. I also have a book on this, which is called Walking Together, available on Amazon, but the webinars are available from my website. And if you want to know more about predatory behavior, the best starting point is either my book, Hunting Together, or my course, PST Principles. So these two cover the basic information and already first games that you can start straight away with your dog. So we cover all the important things that you need when you want to start training straight away, because I always feel when I hear something new, I want to try this out. I want some real practical stuff. So yeah.
Great. I'll have a link to your website in the show notes too, so everybody look at the show notes. Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed this episode, please consider subscribing to my podcast. Come back often and tell your friends. If I can be of any help to you and your pet, please reach out to me via my website, www.somuchpotential.com. And for a lot more information, fun, and videos, please follow me, So Much Potential, on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. See you soon.